Good evening, everyone. We will be starting in another 5 minutes. Please wait until others join. Hi, good evening, everyone. I hope you all are keeping safe in these difficult times. I am Nathan Tilhar and I will be your moderator for today. It is with greatest pleasure that I welcome you all to the Inside Stories Chapter 1 virtual discussion session. First, let me warmly welcome our chief speaker of the evening, Mr. Lasitapet Daudal. He is a skilled and experienced software architect who is also certified blockchain expert. He is currently working at Limark Technologies Private Limited, which is a specialized software service provider focusing on multiple areas of cutting-edge technology solutions. He will be sharing his expertise and experience with us today. I also extend my welcome to the academic staff of Faculty of Computing Technology, University of Canada. Also, I warmly welcome you all to this delightful evening. Before going forward, let me give you a quick introduction to today's session. What is Inside Stories? Inside Stories is exclusively the first series of events organized by ITSA, University of California. Within this series of events, we hope to conduct virtual discussions and webinars regarding three major pathways in IT industry: software industry, network industry, and gaming industry. This will be a huge opportunity for you all to prepare and mark your place in competitive IT sector. Today, we are going to conduct first session of the series, namely Chapter 1, Think Slow Code, which is virtual discussion focused on software industry. Since this is the first official event of the Information Technology Student Association, University of California, we have with us our senior treasurer of our association, Dr. Anurag Vilhenge, who is also senior lecturer of our faculty, to briefly address you all. Over to you, madam.
Good evening, everyone. So thank you for joining the first event of the ITSA. And I think most of our first years are joining today. So I welcome the first years to the ITSA and hope you will work together with your brothers and sisters for these events in the future. And thank you, Mr. Lasita, for joining with us today. So he's an expert in his area. I hope you all will learn a lot from him today. So I won't take any more of your time. Wish you all the best for the evening.
Thank you, madam, for your valuable words. Okay, now it's time to move on to our opening session. I now invite our chief speaker, Mr. Lasita Pettavadu, to conduct the opening session of Inside Stories Chapter 1. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Nathan. So let me share my screen first and walk you all through what I'm going to outline for today. Okay, so I'm going to discuss about stepping into the IT industry and what are the challenges as well as what are the key competencies that someone might need when they're trying to step into the IT industry. I hope everyone can see my screen share. Nadun, is it visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, thanks a lot. So before we move on, so let me speak a bit about myself. So as Nadun clearly said, so I started my undergraduate at Curtin University, and then I continued to do a special honors degree at SLIIT. And also while I was employed, I did a master's degree at University of Moratuwa on computer science, which is specialized in software architecture. So currently I'm employed as a software architect. So that is why I thought of pursuing this type of a master's program. If I speak a bit about my work experience, I started working at a company called Zone 24x7. So I hope most of you all might have heard of that company. So most of my work experience is at Zone 24x7. Then later on, I joined a company known as 99X. So initially it was called 99X Technologies, but now they have rebranded as 99X. So, and thereafter I joined my current company, Limark Technologies. And I'm also consulting to a company called Tetronite Solutions, which is a maturing startup at the moment. Addition to all of this, addition to the industry exposure, I also do visiting lecturing. I do visiting lecturing at SLIIT where I studied. So I lecture undergraduate students just like you all. So I teach subjects related to project management, agile project management for undergraduate students, as well as I do 2 subjects related to the master's degree program at SLIIT as well, related to distributed computing and cloud computing. Also, I do visiting lectures at IIT, and there I teach the big data students, and there also I co-lecture a subject on cloud computing. Okay, so enough about me. So let's go to the major chunk of my session. So if you think about the IT industry, so this is an entire huge kind of iceberg, for you all if you look at it, right? So if you are like the Titanic, and if you're navigating your way through this entire ocean of the IT industry, so our expectation is to make sure that you don't crash into these icebergs, right? And if you look at the different roles and the different types of job opportunities that are there in the IT industry, you might only know the tip of it, just a little bit, just what is exposed to you right now. But if you look at the entire IT industry, there are so many opportunities and there are so many areas that a person can go and get himself employed into. So that's what we are trying to look at today. So it's actually not what it seems, right? So even though you feel that there are only a few things that are out there, the IT industry, unlike other industries, is very vast. Okay, so let's try to quickly focus on the different career opportunities that are available. So the most popular one that all of you all have heard is software engineering, right? Or a software engineer. So there are multiple subcategories under the software engineering discipline. If you take a mobile developer, if you take a web developer, a full stack engineer, all of these people fall under the software engineer category. And if you look at the different types of levels that you can go and that you can promote in this particular area, you can start off as an associate software engineer. So that's how I also started. You can do an internship, and after you complete the internship, you would be an associate software engineer. And thereafter, you can go ahead and go through this career path, and you can progress as a software engineer,
Recording
a senior
stopped.
software engineer, a senior tech lead. Likewise, you can go up to architect level, and you can go even beyond that into a CTO position. So this is software engineering. This is one area. So the main roles and responsibilities of a person who is a software engineer would be to develop software products, right? So you would be under a team, and you would
Recording
be
in progress.
coding, and you would be building software products. So these products can be mobile applications, it can be web applications, desktop, you name it. It could be any type of software application. Then we have people who do quality assurance or quality assurance engineers. So quality assurance engineers are there mainly to find different bugs, different issues, different quality related aspects of a software system. So the developer might go ahead and implement the software solution, but there might be issues when actual users are using it. You might have faced a lot of issues when you're using softwares. Sometimes they crash, sometimes there are different issues, and they tend to not work the way you want. So quality assurance engineering is basically there for you to go ahead and test all of the applications before it goes into the hands of the clients. Then we have someone known as the business analyst. So the business analyst is the person who goes and engages with the client, or the person who is bringing in projects or the work for a company. So the business analyst will go and talk to the customer, to the client, and we'll discuss all the requirements, what needs to be done in this software, what are the things we are going to implement, and how it needs to be implemented. So the business analyst will go ahead and bring that entire requirement, and the team will then talk to the business analyst and internally discuss with the business analyst. Then we have project managers. So this is an area which is kind of changing a bit because of agile project management. So in an agile project, we don't have a project manager. We have a role called a scrum master. But in most organizations where it is very large, there are specific project managers as well who would overlook the projects at the top level, and they would go ahead and make sure that the projects are running smoothly, whether they are running according to the schedule, whether they are meeting the expected budget requirements of that project. So all of those things are tracked and managed by a project manager. So these are like the high level job roles that are there, job opportunities that are there. Then there are more opportunities when it comes to working with devices and working with machines, right? So you have network engineers. So these people are the ones who would go ahead and set up the infrastructure so that the machines and servers can communicate with one another, right? And then we have system administrators who would go ahead and maintain and monitor all of the systems that are running. So if some kind of a server crashes or if something goes wrong, then system administrators would go ahead and look into what's going wrong there. And then these two, the network engineer and the system administrator, these roles are now shifting a bit. It's changing in the industry, and now we are seeing people called DevOps engineers. This is kind of a new role that's out there, and there's a high demand for DevOps engineers. So DevOps engineers are basically, you have two words combined together, developer as well as operations. That's why it's called DevOps, right? So DevOps engineers are people who have coding skills, but who are going to maintain the infrastructure, make sure that releases or the software that you build gets deployed to those environments automatically, and we have a continuous flow in terms of delivery in our projects. So the DevOps engineer's role is that. So it's more than the role of a normal system administrator or a network engineer. And then you have IT support engineers. So these are the people who would basically answer the phone calls, right? If you send a support email to a software and say, okay, my email is not working, right? And there are problems with using this product. Let's say if it is Gmail, something goes wrong. You send an email to the support center, then they reply back to you, and they tell you different steps to try out, right? So support engineers are like that. So they might not be fully hands-on with coding. They might escalate that into a different level when it comes to solving that problem using code, and they would be like the front line in terms of addressing all the problems that might occur in a software product, right? When customers face a problem, the support engineer is the first person who will receive that problem and will try to mitigate it at that level. And thereafter, we have other administrative positions like database administrator and UI UX engineer. Again, is a highly in demand job role in the IT industry, right? Where if we design any type of software, there is an interface, right? If it is a desktop application or a mobile or a web application, UI and UX goes hand in hand, right? So UI was there beforehand, but now there is UX as well. UX is where it's about how we perceive the application. It's more than just the design and the look of the application. It's how the user actually feels while they are using the application. So UI UX engineers would be another important role in the software industry or in the IT industry. Then security engineers. So you know that most of the applications these days are moving into cloud environments. They are not being deployed inside data centers owned by the individuals, by the company. These type of applications are generally more prone towards attacks, right? People everywhere over the internet are trying to attack these particular applications because they are available over the internet. So because of that, security is a very important thing. And if you read news, you would see that there are multiple incidents every day being reported about these type of vulnerabilities, right? And people have attacked and they have stolen data, your private information is stolen. So because of that, security engineers are highly paid, and it's like a well in demand industry, and these type of experts are highly in demand. Okay, so now let's quickly look at different trends in IT. So I just spoke about general roles, right? I didn't go into very specific domains or anything like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch base a bit about the different trends in IT and the emerging domains that are there in IT and the sectors where you have specific job roles that are available. So if you look at the trending areas in IT, one of the most trending areas these days is artificial intelligence and machine learning, right? Because more things are being automated and the computing power has improved in terms of what we have in terms of hardware. There is a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning products and tools coming out, right? Because of this, there is a high demand for AI and machine learning related experts. And then Internet of Things. Again, computing power is being used in smaller devices, embedded devices, and these devices are connected to the internet, and there are massive amounts of such devices deployed in different use cases, right? So we can maybe discuss later about these type of things. So IoT related area has a lot of opportunity as well. And then blockchain. So blockchain, when you think of blockchain, everyone thinks Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and earning money and all of this. But blockchain is far wide than that. There are so many applications related to blockchain that we could do, right? When it comes to securing data, privately sharing data. So there are so many models that you can build based on top of the blockchain concept. And cloud computing. So if you have heard of Amazon and all of these top companies, all of them are into cloud computing, right? So because of that, most of the people, most of the startups have been able to get cheap infrastructure at a very convenient manner where they could customize, and you could, it's like going to a store and ordering things, right? You go ahead and sign up and you buy a server, right? You can buy that server and you have a pay as you go policy. You don't need to purchase the entire server for a huge cost. So because of all of these things, cloud computing, experts in cloud computing and certified people in cloud computing has a high demand as well. And finally, data science. Data science, again, data is everything. Even right now in this particular session, think of the number of data points that we are emitting at this moment. So we are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube. Imagine the amount of data we have transmitted even now, right? So data science, it's all about data these days. So the person with the right data analytics and who can derive the right amount of information out of data would be the one with the most knowledge and with the most advantage in terms of the industry. So because of that, data science is very emerging, as well as it has a lot of potential, and there are multiple job opportunities there, where you have data scientists, where you have data engineers, so different types of job opportunities there. Now let's look at, briefly touch base on the skills and competencies that you need to have when you step into the industry. So the first skill, so you might think that the industry might expect you to be very competent in terms of a technology, in terms of Java or maybe Python or PHP or whatever programming language. But generally, what we seek for in an intern or a person who is freshly joining the industry would be the ability to continuously learn, right? We don't expect you to be very proficient in any of the programming languages, but you need to be able to continuously learn and adapt into that ecosystem. So when you're joining a new company, it's a new challenge. So you need to be very clear and you need to be very well aware of how you're going to learn and adapt into that environment, right? And the second point is again about adapting and embracing changes. So you know that in the software industry, things are changing a lot, right? Today, you will see one technology. Maybe 2 or 3 months down the line, you would see that technology not being used much, and there's another new technology coming in. So if you were to stick into one particular technology and hold on to just one technology, that's not going to take you far, right? You need to be very versatile and very dynamic so that you can learn and adapt into different technologies. You should have that ability to constantly read, understand, and grab information and try to learn things and adapt it and embrace these changes, right? If you don't embrace these changes and adapt into it, then gradually you would decay and you would be obsolete in the IT industry, which is not something you would want to be in. And the next thing is about passion and curiosity. So always think of why you have chosen this particular industry, right? So generally in our society and in our culture, there is this norm where students need to become doctors. Our parents think we need to become doctors, engineers, or either one of those two, right? And sometimes students tend to choose IT because they have no other option. So because they might feel that it's a high paid industry, and the pay and the jobs and the salaries are very high. Because of that, I'm going to choose IT, right? But rather than that, what takes you longer in this entire industry is where you would be, if you have a passion towards the work that you do, that is where it will take you a long way, right? So try to be very curious about what's going on inside. When you see an application working, try to look at the inner workings of it. Try to see how is this being built, how is it working the way it is, what can be the underlying technology driving entirely this entire thing, right? So you need to be very curious and very passionate about the work that you do. It should not be like, okay, I'm being given this task and I'm just going to do that and I'm going to finish it off, or I'm just going to stay from 8:30 till about 5:30 p.m. and I'm just going to complete the 9 hours and I'm just going to leave the organization. That should not be the way. You should continuously try to learn from the people inside of the organization and keep on improving yourself. And the next thing, then the most important thing is about attitude. You should have a positive attitude towards the work, as well as a positive attitude towards the overall outlook of what you do inside of the organization when you join the organization. So these are like the key things you need to do. So the next one is let go of your ego, right? Don't be like this proud person. I am only doing Java. I won't do anything else. Don't give me any other work, right? You should not be very specific like that. There is a time where you could be specific. Once you gather enough information, once you gather enough exposure and experience, then you could go ahead and you can simply be that person, right? You can be that specific person, specialized person in that particular technology. Then you could be like, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm only going to focus on this area. But when you're starting, you need to be very clear that you are coming without any exposure, any experience whatsoever. So then your demanding power is also very less. So because of that, you need to let go of your ego, let go of all the beliefs and things that you have, and you should go ahead and try to get as much experience as possible within the organization during your internship period, so that you can exit out in a very successful manner. And be approachable and helpful. So when you're doing your internship and when you're moving into the industry, don't be stagnated into one area, right? You should make sure that you go ahead and interact with the people inside of the organization, try to talk to them and do everything. So there is this belief that because we are working with machines, because IT professionals are working with machines, we don't need to communicate. But it's not true, right? Most of the time we are working with a team and we are working with multiple number of people in the organization. So it's really important that you talk to people, ask questions, clarify doubts, and go ahead, right? Unlike how you are in the university, where when you want to ask a question, you would pass a chit, right? I have seen this happening a lot, right? You don't ask the question, you will pass a chit to the front, and the lecturer has to read out your question and then answer the question. And don't be like this. Be very open, be and talk to people inside of the organization and make sure that you clarify your doubts, right? So learn from everyone, and everyone has something to share, right? So be open for criticism as well, right? So, and improve your communication. So the final thing the final takeaway note of this session is, when you're coding, when you're developing a system, there are multiple points where people will review your work, right? They will review your work. They will go ahead and look at your code. Your leads, your seniors will review your work and they will give comments, right? So up until now, you have been used to examinations. You have an examination, you study for the examination, you go ahead and you face the examination, then you get a mark, and that's it. That's all. But this process happens continuously. Every release, every change that you make, someone will be reviewing your change and they will be giving comments. If those comments are harsh, let's say when you're starting, your work will not be good. You would not be doing a very quality job, right? You're learning. But if they give you harsh comments, you need to understand that these comments are not for you. It's about the code that you write, right? So the criticism and the things that are being given is for the work that you do, and you should not equate that to your personal self. This is where the problem happens. Then you start thinking, okay, he gave a comment like this, and you feel bad about it, and you take it negatively, and you ultimately you lose your performance. This should not happen, right? So you should always think that the code is something separate and you are a separate person as it is, right? You have so much of good qualities. You have been brought up in a certain way and you live in a certain way, and you cannot be equated to the code that you write. So the comments are being given for the code, and that's your work is being reviewed, whereas you are a separate person and a separate entity. So don't take things personal. So always try to learn and adapt, and then move forward in your internships. Okay, thanks a lot. So that's my brief session. So I think we can move on to the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Lasitha. It was a very informative opening session, and With that, we could lay a solid foundation for our main discussion. Now, we are at the main session of today's event. So, with the tagline for day, we have completed the think slow and coding steps. Now it's time to execute. I now invite my fellow batchmate, Hansi, to join me in conducting the main discussion.
Hi, Nadun. Hello, sir. I hope I'm
Hi.
audible.
Yeah, you're audible, Hansi.
Okay.
Yes.
So, hi, everyone. I hope everyone is staying healthy during these difficult times. And I'm glad to see such participation. It seems like we are getting used to this new norm now. So, all right, without further ado, let's dive into our main discussion. Like Sir said, there's this typical mentality in Sri Lanka, right? So in Sri Lanka, usually in our traditional ways of thinking, whenever students face their A levels, they get to hear this golden sentence. They are told this golden sentence: just get to the university, and then you will be set for life. And I am pretty sure almost all the undergraduates here must have heard this sentence at least once in their lifetime. So let's start our discussion on that point, sir. Like you mentioned in the opening session, there are some expected skills and competencies that the industry expects from an undergraduate, right? So here's my first question for you. How can undergraduates develop these skills, these expected skills during their undergraduate life in the 4 to 5 years that they spend in the university? What are the opportunities? How can they develop these required skills?
Yeah. So the very first thing that you need to do is focus on your academic skills first, right? So the academics. So you have chosen to do an undergraduate program, and there are subjects there, right? So those subjects are giving you the theoretical aspects. It gives you all the theoretical knowledge. You might think, why do we need all of this theoretical information, right? So even I have thought about that at times, right? When we are learning certain things, why are we learning all of this? It doesn't make sense, right?
Especially
But
like when you're doing IT, but you have to learn mathematics and all. Then they're like,
mathematics, yes.
Physics,
Yeah.
electronics.
Yeah, so you tend to think, why you are learning all of that. But when you're facing a problem, when you're facing an actual project problem, and when you're facing certain things, or when you want to learn something new or understand what someone else has done, this becomes very important. The foundation is very important. Even if you think about a house, right? If you don't put a proper foundation, and if you start building that house, and if you build maybe 2 or 3 floors, right, what happens if the foundation is not strong? As you go along, the entire house will collapse, right? It's similar to that. So first thing you need to focus is, while you're doing the undergraduate, make sure that you understand the concepts and whatever the theoretical knowledge that you're gaining in the undergraduate program properly. That is number one. Next thing would be, in addition to that, you need to make sure that you do your own work, which is, you could go ahead and do self projects. You can start contributing to open source projects, right? So there are different other things that you can get engaged to. You can do things like Google Summer of Code, all sorts of things where you can go ahead and contribute to existing things and collaborate with others, right? That's one way. And the next thing would be, you can go ahead and contribute to places like Stack Overflow, where there are question and answering uh, sessions, where you could go ahead and contribute to those. You can go ahead and answer to questions. You can go ahead and ask questions there, and you can create and build your personal brand in those profiles, right? And there's another specific place where you can go ahead and improve your programming skills, which is called HackerRank. So HackerRank is really good. You can focus on particular programming languages or particular technologies, and you can do certain exercises and try to improve your skills. So these are things outside of your academic learning. Once you do all of those things, you would have something to show when you go into a software company and when you apply for an interview, right? So when you apply to a place, then there would be something you can go ahead and show as a portfolio. There would be a set of projects you have done, and there would be a profile which has points and rankings and things that you can be proud about. And also another one would be, you need to make sure that you read and understand things. So there are blogs, articles, so many things out there today, right? So much of access to resources. So make sure that you utilize them properly. So go ahead and read and learn things that are there in blogs. Whenever you face any difficulty, try to self-explore and try to figure out whether there are things that you can learn and extract from online articles.
Yes. So basically, they need to have a self-discipline of teaching themselves, right?
Yes.
Yes. And I think that's very relevant to these days, because we are like in this remote learning thing. So it's in our hands where we can watch lectures if we want to. We can just skip if we want to. So it's in our hands. So that's about professional skills. So how about soft skills? About, like you said, the language skills, about the ability to communicate with people, the ability to ask a question, clear their doubts. Those are also needed, even if this is the IT industry, like you said. Even if we are dealing with machines, we are also dealing with human beings. So how can these students or undergraduates can develop their soft skills?
Yeah, so soft skills are very important when it comes to dealing with clients, especially most IT companies deal with overseas clients. So language is a important thing that you need to improve on, right? So most of the academic programs that I have been dealing with have specific modules targeting to improve the language skills. So that at the foundation level, you have English and all of these things. So as I told, reading and all of those things, listening to sessions and listening to meetups and podcasts that are there will help you to get that. When you want to improve your usage of your language, you need to start using the language first of all. So talk to people as much as possible. If it is English, go ahead and talk to people in English. Find communities where you can engage. You can also go to a thing called Toastmasters. So if your particular university has a Toastmasters club, go ahead and participate for all of those, and then try to improve your language skills. It's really, really essential, because a person who doesn't even if you don't have much skills, right? Even if you don't have much skills, there are instances where people have been able to communicate and express what they know in a better way and get more opportunities in the industry. So soft skills are really important because of that.
Yes, and I would like to add something to that. So I think university presents a lot of opportunities. Like there are projects, then you have to present these things, and it's just in front of your batchmates, your own people. So if you do not take that opportunity, then if you do not take up that challenge, I don't think there will be another chance to improve, right?
Yes. Yeah, and it's not just verbal communication. There is also a non-verbal aspect also. So writing email etiquette is very, very important. How you write emails. Some people, they write emails. If when the person reads the email, they feel like hammering the person who wrote the email, right? You need to understand how can you word something in a very courteous manner, right? And how if you are communicating bad information, let's say something went wrong, horribly wrong, you made a mistake, right? And you want to communicate this. Are you going to bluntly say, I went ahead and deleted the database or something like that? Or how are you going to communicate that information? So things like that. So you need to understand how you articulate emails and how you maintain email etiquette as well. So that is another part of nonverbal communication. And then again, even for presentations and all of these things, when you're meeting a client, so generally with this COVID, I don't think people would meet clients often these days. But if you're going for a client meetup, how do you dress? How do you carry yourself? Forget about clients, even the interview, right? If you're walking into an interview, how are you going to dress? how are you going to position yourself, right? So all of those non-verbal aspects are also important when it comes to communication.
Yes, I agree. As a third year undergraduate, I've come across several such opportunities to level up my soft skills. One is this platform, talking here, being the moderator. That's also one challenge that I had to take up. So, all right, moving on. Since we talked about career opportunities in the opening session, we talked about a lot of career opportunities in this field. Let's talk about internships because that is the first step of an undergraduate towards corporate life. So, Nadun, let me ask Nadun, tell me, as an undergraduate, do you have any doubts about your internship, about your becoming an intern?
Yes, Hansi. I actually don't know whether I will be able to choose an internship in my area of interest. Like my area of interest is machine learning. Also, whether my skill be enough for the job role. Also about shifting from a studying environment to working environment. I have that
Yes,
doubts.
shifting from a studying environment to a working
Yeah.
environment, definitely. Yes. Well, Nathan, I can relate to that because from school life, you came to the undergraduate life. In school, they basically spoon feed you. So in undergraduate
Yeah.
life, you have to spoon feed yourself. So that's what happens. So when in the working world, I'm pretty sure it's different. So, sir, this is my question to you. What are the challenges that an undergraduate might have to face when shifting from a studying environment to a working environment? You can also tell us a bit about your internship experience.
Yeah. So when you're moving from a studying environment into a working environment, the main problem that people face is discipline, right? So first of all, getting used to that entire 8:30, 5:30, or that 9 hour work shift, right? And there is no, when you start off, you don't know anyone there as well, right? And people are senior most of the time. If you go as a batch, then it's a bit easy. You might have friends where you can talk and you can solve things. But if you're joining freshly to an organization as an intern and you are the only person going in there, the main challenges that you have would be in terms of connecting with people. That is the first thing, right? You might feel insecure. You might feel how would this person think if I ask this type of a question. So those type of problems would be the main things, as I feel, that a new person joining would have. That is the main barrier. So but the good thing about it is there are certain companies which have very open cultures where people are very close, and where there's a lot of team bonding. So in certain instances like that, it becomes very easy for the person joining also to break out from this norm where they feel very shy and where they feel very left out, right? And the next thing would be when you're assigned a task, there is this gap all the time, right? So the academic studies that you do would teach you up to a certain level, but when you go into the industry, there might be many things that are very new to you, right? So because of this, there are certain challenges. So for that, so some organizations have training sessions for interns where they get to train on these technologies, and where they get to work on these technologies, and then you can go ahead and move on and go into the main project. So this is how I think these are like the main challenges that someone would face.
How about you add some about your internship experience as well, sir?
Yeah, so I actually didn't do an internship. I joined as an associate
Oh.
software engineer, but it's pretty much the same. So I completed the degree and went. The only thing that I didn't have was to study while I was working. So this is also very challenging, right? So when I joined again, the main problems that I had was when I'm trying to communicate certain things, I had difficulty in explaining. Like I was not sure about the work that I did, right? So whether this is the right thing to do, or whether this is correct or wrong. So those type of problems were there, and the productivity also plays a key key problem sometimes, because you see that other developers are very productive than you, people are working very efficiently, but you're very new and you're like making mistakes. It's like those vehicles that go and bump into certain places and roll back. It's like that, right? So the initial phase is like that. You go ahead and you hit a wall, and then you turn back, and then you try another thing, likewise. So you need to go behind people, ask questions, discuss with them, discuss with your leads, get help, and move forward. So that process might be very tough for certain people. That's why I said in at the start itself, you should let go of your ego. If you think you are like the man and you can solve everything, and if you spend like the entire day, and at the end, if the lead comes and asks, what have you done today? Nothing. If it is nothing, if you were stuck with a problem, then that's not going to be very productive. And that person will also be like, why didn't you ask? There are so many people you can get help. Why didn't you ask? Right. So this is like the main challenge I see, and the main behavior I notice in interns who are joining freshly.
That's true. So basically, even though you find a lot of obstacles, you just need to keep going. And I think there's a famous quote: "Stay hungry, stay foolish."
Yeah.
So I think that's that's how you make your place in the industry.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, let me ask something again. So, how are team working and management leadership skills? Management and leadership skills when we go to the intern.
Yeah. So generally, when you go as an intern, leadership skills I don't think plays a key role there, because you're starting off very small. You won't be getting like a leadership role immediately. But the way you work, the way you communicate, and the way you talk with people, they might identify your leadership skills at that point. But you won't be assigned to a leadership role where you need to go ahead and manage people. But if you work properly, if you portray, if you communicate, and if you collaborate properly with others, and if you work together and solve the problems that are there in that particular project or work that you're doing, then once you complete your internship, then there's a high chance for you to go back into that organization to a better position later on with a successful internship completion.
Yes.
Okay. So I think our participants here must have gained some insight on how they should prepare themselves before entering the internships, because I definitely got a clear idea about it. Moving on, we all know that the IT sector is much competitive. Along with the growing technologies, there are some trending technologies. Along with all these opportunities, the competitiveness of the industry also increases day by day, especially in the software sector. So in fact, Mr. Lasatha did mention about these opportunities in his opening session. So, sir, my next question for you is, how can an undergraduate make a career path in these upcoming trending fields that you mentioned when those topics are not covered in their degree program? For example, Nadun here said that he wanted to make a career path in machine learning, but that part is not covered in a degree program. So how can they go ahead and make a career path in those areas?
Yeah. So when you're starting off, even though I told trending IT areas and all, when you're starting off, you can't be like, I want to be a machine learning expert, right? Nobody will recruit you for something like that, right? First of all, you will be working in a project which has machine learning. That is for sure. You can join like that. You can internally ask from the company that you want exposure in this particular area. You can maybe say, I'm planning to do a research in machine learning, so because of that I want to gain more exposure there, right? And you can go ahead and you can get that opportunity in that manner. But you can't apply for a machine learning position and go into that. It's very rare that people will hire you for something like that when you're starting off. If the company is specializing in machine learning and everything that they do is machine learning, then yes, every opportunity that you get would be related to machine learning. But in terms of learning, so let's say you don't get any type of exposure, right? Any type of exposure from your academic program in terms of machine learning. So what you could do is there are multiple number of courses, online resources available, right? There are online communities on LinkedIn, all of these places, right? So where you can go ahead and you can register and enroll into these, and you can learn more, right? So in order for you to learn, so these type of industries, machine learning, IoT, all of these industries, as I told you, would require you to have good good you to have a good foundation, right? People these days move into machine learning and they say that they would be using one or two frameworks, right? I'm using this cloud platform and I'm doing machine learning, but underlying they don't know what's happening at all. They are just calling functions and methods and they are just doing machine learning. But when you think about it, machine learning needs a statistics background, a mathematics background. So rather than trying to think about machine learning, you should first build that foundation where you get that proper mathematical background and the statistics background, which will help you in learning the machine learning concepts. That will take you a far distance than simply going into the industry and trying to become a machine learning expert in 1 or 2 years, right? That is not going to work out.
Okay. So, sir, since we're talking about academic life, let's talk about the monster, GPA. So,
Definitely.
yes, so we are getting a lot of questions as well. This is, I think, everyone has this question. So, if they get like one course repeated, two courses repeated in one semester, in the first year, first semester, something happens, something goes wrong. So that comes out in the transcript at the end. So, does that really matter when making a place or securing a job in the industry? The marks and your like the academic performance overall, how does that affect?
Yeah. So the GPA and all. So if you think about the IT industry, there are people coming from different backgrounds, right? There are people coming with degrees. There are people trying to apply without degrees, right? So there are people who have completed diplomas and who are trying to apply, right? So there are wide variety of people coming from different backgrounds into the IT industry. Even though you feel you have repeated this module and this module is there in my transcript and all of that, for the people who are recruiting you, it's just another candidate, right? It's another candidate that they are looking at, right? So the degree and all of this might become a problem when they are shortlisting your CV for the very first time, because they haven't even spoken to you, right? They haven't even spoken to you. They are just looking at a document. They're just looking at a PDF that you email. So for that, it might become a problem. But if you have other things to back it up, as I told you, projects, different types of things that you have tried out, a GitHub repository with code and different things, different smaller projects you have tried out, those can outweigh all the other things, in my opinion, right? Because if the person is competent, if you have practical exposure, practical knowledge, and if you are able to solve a problem, right, that outweighs most of the things than paper qualifications these days. And to be very frank with you all, this problem of the degree happens only for your first job opportunity. Once you go to your first workplace and once you complete your internship and once you complete your work there, it becomes much more easier for you to move into to a different company, or rather stay in the same company even, right? Because you have the experience there. You can show the experience and bring that in front of the degree most of the time. So now let's say I'm trying to apply to a new place, right? Nobody will go ahead and check my undergraduate transcript, right? A level results, no one will check those. Why should they check? There are more things to check, right? So even on LinkedIn, I have told people, now some people, they go ahead and put things like, I have done MySQL, I have done Java, right? You update all of those skills after 10 or 20 years, right? Still you have, I have done Java, I have done MySQL. There are better things you can update there, right? So always people try to look at your immediate past performance more than the entire history that's there, right? Because it's not useful once you gain experience. But for that initial step, if you don't have anything else, you have been focusing only on academics, you're like stuck to books, you're a bookworm, but still you have repeated certain modules, then I'm sorry, then you are at a disadvantage.
Okay, that was a very straightforward answer, sir. Thank you so much. Okay, and since we talk about making these projects and doing other things that can back your academics, how can undergraduates come up with interesting and novel project ideas or project ideas that really matter? You can do something that doesn't really matter as well, but something that really matters. And how can they take up these project ideas to the next level, to the entrepreneurship level? Because I know a lot of my friends, they want to become entrepreneurs. So how can they do this? Projects and entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So one thing someone could do is try to look at the every. I think every university. I don't know about University of California, but most of the universities they have a portfolio of all projects that have been done by seniors, right? Undergraduates, research projects. Generally, most universities have a research symposium. You have journals and things published there, right? So if you are very interested in, keen in improving certain things, you can go ahead and read through those research areas that they have done, right? And you can try to contribute to those. There have been students who have done that, right? Some students, they start off very early in their final year research, and they take something that a senior set of students have done, and they go ahead and improve on top of that. That is one way where you can try out certain things, and you can have something to portray as well. Another thing would be to contribute to open source projects, right? So something like Google Summer of Code. You can create your own. You can go to the open source project, look at what type of things they are doing, and you can submit a proposal. You can submit a proposal, and if that particular organization accepts your proposal, you can do that as a project, right? And Google will fund you as well for that. See how nice? So you will get a mentor. Google will fund you for the project, and you can go ahead and contribute. And there is like a whole community where you get to interact with. If you run into any issue, there are chats, emails, all of those threads going on, and you can go ahead and talk to people and solve problems. And finally, once you do that, that has a lot of recognition, right? That entire process, once you complete it, it has a lot of recognition in the industry because it's living proof. You have actually done something to a project and contributed to that. So those are some of the ways. If you can't even contribute to a open source project, if that is not possible for you, build things on your own. Figure out problems that are out there, build smaller projects, and create your own GitHub repository with a set of projects that are there. Even that would be useful.
Yes,
Sir,
I think.
how do we publish
Nadu.
our projects? Normally, when you said own projects without contributing to open source project, if we build our own project, how we publish without, just put it into GitHub?
Yeah, so by publishing, you mean to get recognition, right? So
yes,
making sure that people have awareness about it. So one thing is you can go ahead and post them on forums like Reddit, right? Reddit can be a very scary place for people who are joining new because there are there are people who give very harsh comments. So even when I was trying to contribute, I got very harsh comments on Reddit. But it's like a good platform where you can get a lot of criticism as well as you can expose your work that you have done, right? Another thing would be to create your own blog, right? Start your own blog, write about everything that you do in that blog, right? Then again, you might ask, why the hell nobody will go ahead and read my blog, right? It's out there. Nobody will go ahead and read my blog. Who will come and read my blog, right? But when you think about it, your blog will get indexed in Google, right? So let's say you wrote about something related to computer vision, right? Image processing, right? So you wrote an article, you created a small project where you can detect sign language, right? So and you use computer vision, and you create a small project and you write a blog about it. There are others who are researching on this, right? When they search, when they use search terms, your blog will come in that search results, right? If that appears in the search results, then people will start identify, okay, what have you created? What is the usefulness of this, right? You can use other platforms like LinkedIn. I don't know whether you all have seen certain students, they have created certain projects and they put that on LinkedIn, and there's a far lot of reach on LinkedIn if you have a good set of people as connections in your profile, right? So you can do all sorts of things like that in order to get the exposure to the work that you're doing. And entrepreneurship, so finally when you do the project, entrepreneurship is kind of a word that is misinterpreted at the moment. Everyone wants to become an entrepreneur, right? So most of the time this happens, right? So there are these false fallacies where people see what entrepreneurs have, right? So vehicles or luxuries that they have, and everyone wants to become that, right? But I think before you try to become an entrepreneur, first of all, try to think what type of problem you're trying to solve, right? Entrepreneurs, as I feel, are people who are trying to innovate and who would try to give a solution to a problem that they're passionate about, right? Just because of the outward stuff that's there that an entrepreneur might get, don't try to become an entrepreneur. That doesn't go a long way, right? But definitely the smaller projects that you pick, maybe even the final year research project, you can continue, and you can build a company around it, and you can go ahead. There are other platforms like NBQSA, things like that, where you can try to create, you can take your projects, your research projects, and try to build a business model around it, and try to pitch into these particular competitions, and try to gauge and see whether you get a chance, whether it's going to be useful for people out there. So if you were to win an award or something like that, then there's a high chance that what you're trying to do makes sense, right? First, get that gauged out before you try to build 10 or 20 things, and try to sell them and become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so focus on one thing, just put it out there, because if it's out there, it will be there forever. Like if it's on the internet, it
Yes.
is on the internet. So once you search it, it will be there. So I think that was a lovely take on projects, and also entrepreneurship. Also, I have these. I've come across these, especially TikToks and these trending social medias these days. They're like, okay, I don't want to work a 9 to 5 job, 8 to 5 job. I'm gonna do this, a small business, or this, that, this. So this entrepreneurship thing, like you said, it's becoming a trend these days because of the luxuries. But I think they're forgetting the risk management part of that, because when you're an entrepreneur, you get the benefits as well as the things that go down. If something goes wrong, then again that will affect you only, like as an individual, right? So that was a lovely answer, sir. Thank you so much. Okay, I think we have reached almost the end of our main discussion. But don't worry, don't go anywhere. We still have our Q&A for open for the audience. You can send in your questions through the Slido portal. The link is in the chat. With that, I think I can move on to the last question of the main discussion that I have prepared. Okay. So we're talking about, since we are like in lockdown, everything is online, everything is done remotely. We're talking with our friends through online mediums. So we are connecting through these online platforms, and we can reach out to people beyond geographical limitations, right? So how can Sri Lankan software developers enter the international market of the software industry? For example, how can they get internships or maybe job opportunities in renowned companies such as Google, Microsoft, Amazon, etc.?
Yeah, so there are specific companies. So there are specific companies who list out job postings on their platforms, right? Especially for remote work. So mainly this problem, like the barrier in going into a global company was because of the relocation previously, right? Because you need to get a visa, and you need to go ahead and apply to, if it is US, you need to go ahead and apply to H1 visa or something like that, and you need to relocate, and then you need to go ahead and work, right? But with remote opportunities, I have seen on multiple platforms, even on Stack Overflow, there are job postings. And there are other companies, if I name a few, there is one called Turing. So Turing is a platform which where you can submit your profile, and it's a bit difficult to get selected there. The process is very hard. And then there is Crossover for Work. So there are different types of platforms where you can go ahead and work remotely in those organizations. But to be honest, I have not seen any of these. Like I have not had any example where any of my students or people whom I know have personally joined as a remote candidate to do an internship in one of the global companies like Google. But I have friends and people whom I know who have reached a certain level in terms of experience and have migrated and then moved into these companies.
Okay, I think that answers the question. Well, we are getting some other questions. I think, Nadun, we can just simply move on to the Q&A with this together, right? Let's not stop. I think everyone is so interested. We are getting so many questions in the Slido. All right, so I'll post questions. So this is the Q&A session. I remind all of our participants to send in your questions. The link is in the chat. Let me quickly pick a question. Okay, the first question, I think that's been upvoted several times. So, should I know both front end and back end development to get a good job? Is that necessary?
Yeah, so front if you know front end and back end development, you're being called as a full stack engineer, right? Full stack developer. So generally, for smaller organizations, startup companies, what I have noticed is they prefer full stack engineers because there are less number of people in the organization. So letting you to work on backend specifically or front end specifically is very difficult, right? So because of that, they generally prefer to have full stack engineers, right? So that's for smaller organizations. But for larger organizations, if you're joining a large organization, anyway, you will be working on one specific area in that particular project. So because of that, because you are not playing multiple hats in that organization, due to that reason, you can still learn either front end or either back end and then continue. But if you're planning on moving to a startup, then yes, having both front end as well as back end knowledge will help you out.
Thank you, sir, for your clear answer. Next question, sir. I'm good in programming, but my marks and grades are not high. So will it be a problem when applying for intern?
So I think I answered that question about the marks, but I think he's good in programming. So yeah, you can continue.
Yeah, so you're good in programming, but the marks are not high. Okay, will that be a problem to apply for the internship? Right. So you need to first of all think like why your marks are not good also, right? So I actually answered this before, but anyway, just to add to it, just think why your marks are not good. Is it because you don't learn, like you don't learn the theoretical stuff? Is it because of that, or is it because of a different reason? Just think about that also, right? And knowing only programming is not going to be helpful, right? Just coding is not helpful. So try to get to the root of the problem and try to see why you're getting less marks. Is it because you are having trouble learning, or is it because you are having trouble communicating? So most of the time students have a problem in answering. They know the answer, but they can't write the answer in the paper, right? This is because I'm lecturing. I have this experience. When you talk to them, they know all the answers, right? But they can't articulate the answer and write it properly, right? This is like a main thing, right? The use of the proper language, the person who's reading it. That might be the reason you are losing marks, right? If that is the problem, go ahead and fix that, right? And don't think about it, right? The problem is somewhere else. So always try to look at what is the main problem. If you're having low marks, try to fix that also, because it is important, right? When you get good grades, when you get proper results, then it will be a good reflection in terms of your CVs and in terms of the work that you do also.
Okay, sir. We have some more questions. Okay, we have a question in Sinhala as well. Let me just see that. Okay, I'll ask that in Sinhala itself. Degree program එක යන අතරතුර අනිත් skills හදාගත්තම out වෙද්දී skills වැඩිපුර තියෙන එක ලොකු සුදුසුකමක් නේද industry එකට යද්දි sir කියලා අහලා තියෙනවා.
Do you want me to answer in Sinhala also?
You can use both Sinhala and English.
Right.
It depends. Okay.
Right. So can you repeat again? Sorry, I lost my focus there.
ඩිග්‍රී ප්‍රෝග්‍රම් එක යන අතරතුර අනිත් ස්කිල්ස් හදාගත්තාම out with the skills වැඩිපුර තියෙන එක ලොකු සුදුසුකමක් නේද? I think yeah.
ඔව්. පුළුවන් තරම් දේවල් කරන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් අපි දැන් මේ ඊක දැන් යුනිවර්සිටි එකේ ඉන්නකොට යුනිවර්සිටි එකේ තියෙන ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ ඇතින සොසයිටිස් ඇති එක එක දේවල් ඇති හැකතන්ස් ඇති right වෙන යුනිවර්සිටිස් වල හැකතන්ස් තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඒ හැම දෙයකටම පාටිසිපේට් කරන්න. පාටිසිපේට් කරලා ඒවා කරන්න බලන්න. මොකද නිකන් මේ සබ්ජෙක්ට් එක පාඩම් කරලා අන්තිමට ගිහිල්ලා කරලා it's not going to add any value to you, right? Your paper qualifications will look really good. You will have a good GPA, but at the end when you're trying to do the practical work, it's going to be a problem for you. So yes,
Okay. So also we have some similar questions regarding cybersecurity pathways. How can you like enlighten about those things in Sri Lanka? What are the pathways in cybersecurity or an IT undergraduate when they have like a regular IT degree? How can they move on to these pathways and career opportunities?
Also, sir, what are the certification they should follow in undergraduates? As undergraduates.
Yeah, so there are multiple certifications you can follow. So there is one called CEH, Certified Ethical Hacker. So this is one of the certifications you can follow. This is all about teaching you the proper ways, becoming a white hacker, right? So like if you become a black hacker, so that is where you do it for the wrong purposes. Right, so the certified ethical hacker is where you train to hack systems just to identify vulnerabilities and to go ahead and give value, consult other organizations in order to tell them about these vulnerabilities. So you learn so many things about penetration testing, right? So there are different areas where you get exposure when you do these type of certifications, right? Then there is another certification called CISSP, right? So let me check the full name of it, right? So CISSP is the gold standard in cybersecurity certifications, right? So this is also a really good certification, Certified Information Security Professional. So that is another certification that you can get. So these two are the certifications that come to my head at the top of my mind. So there are other certifications also. So these are like the main ones. In terms of career opportunities, generally cybersecurity opportunities are found more overseas than in Sri Lanka. I need to be honest with you all. So there is high demand overseas. In Sri Lankan companies, certain companies, they search for cybersecurity experts or security experts specifically, but generally you see opportunities overseas for this. There you have opportunities in TechCert and places like that. The Sri Lankan organizations where they look at the overall security in terms of Sri Lanka. So for those type of things, there are opportunities. But other than that, most of the opportunities are available overseas.
Okay. With that, we have like one major question that I think everyone comes across. All job roles ask for years of experience. So how do we get started?
So I'm not sure from where this question is coming, right? So if you're trying to apply for an internship, if that organization is going to ask for experience, then there is something wrong with that organization, as I feel, because they are not trying to get the right candidate, right? So you can't ask for people with experience if you're going for an internship, right? So if you're trying to apply for seniors, you're being very confident and optimistic and you're trying to apply for a position like a senior software engineer without any experience, then there is a problem. But for internships, generally they don't ask for any experience. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's question. My goal is to be a lecturer, but should I go to the industry before that?
No, you don't need to. That is the very easiest path, right? So most of now, even in my batch, when I was doing my undergraduate studies, there are people moving into the academic side. These are two pathways, right? There are people moving into the academic side, and there are people moving into the industry side, the software industry side, right? So I chose the software industry. So some people move into the academic side, and then what matters most for those type of people? Educational qualifications. So then you need to keep on studying. You need to do your masters. So even though I did a masters because I like teaching, right? So you need to do a masters. You need to do a PhD. If you are going to stay in that academic area, you need to up your game in terms of those, right? You need to do research publications. That is like the main thing. So you don't need experience. You can actually immediately move into academic position. You can start off as a assistant lecturer or even as a instructor, right? And then you can move your way up in the academic ladder as well, right? So that is possible, and many have done that. Some people, I think this is not wrong to say. So some people, they are afraid of the software industry because of the because of the long hours of work as well as the commitment that they need to put, right? Generally, so you might have heard uh, people work overnight at times when there are tough releases and all, right? So generally, certain people don't like to do this, right? So because of that, they choose the academic side. So after doing the degree, they prefer to move into that area because academic side, you don't have releases, you are not working late nights, right? So the working hours are fixed, and you do the lectures to students, and then thereafter you have free time for yourself. So because of that, certain people pick the academic side.
Yes, but I think you are a part-time lecturer as well as a full-time software architect. So how do you manage that, the time management thing? I think
Yeah.
that's also is an important point, time management for students as undergraduates. So you can tell about us about that as well.
Yeah, so generally I do all my lectures, the things that I do during weekends. I generally keep Sundays free, right? So because I'm married and I have a kid also, so Sundays are free, and all my lectures will be on Saturdays as well as weekdays after 6 most of the time. And the BSc lectures that I do are on, like, I'm not doing I'm not a lecturer in charge in the BSc modules that I conduct. So I'm co-lecturing. So I do certain sessions. So because of that, during those semesters, I tend to, like, I need to do about 2 or 3 sessions. So I have that opportunity from the workplace where I can go ahead and do those sessions only on those particular weeks. So because of that, it's manageable. But then again, there are other things added on top of that. Paper marking is there. So yes, all of those would be there.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's important to have a good work-life balance, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Also, there's a question. What kind of a value do the certificates of online courses such as Coursera, Udemy provide at interviews?
Okay. So these courses, there are, like, I remember interviewing a person. He had about 20 online courses, right? He had done, this on plural site, on Udemy, different types of stuff, right? And the CV was like about 3 or 4 pages with all of these courses, right? And finally, when you ask questions, and when you discuss, and when you ask different questions and try to see whether they actually know what they have learned, they don't know anything, right? They have just done that course, and that's all, right? So don't be like that. Do the course, it's fine, do it, but do it not for the qualification, but do it to learn something new and to grasp something new from that particular platform, not for the qualification. The qualification of that Udemy course is not that like, it's not that important, because if you have the skills to portray for that, then that is more important than the paper qualification.
Okay. So, sir, I don't know whether you know this, but most of our students from our faculty, the undergraduates of Faculty of Computing and Technology, they are students who studied in technology stream in their A levels. The technology stream is the most like the newest stream. So there's this rumor that's going on. That's a question that we have got. A rumor that these students who have done technology in their A levels, even though they do an IT degree in their undergraduate life, they're not eligible to IT jobs. Is that true? I don't think that's true.
I haven't heard of anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think
As I
because
told you, no one cares about what you did for A levels and all of that. For the initial CV screening, they will look at your A level results. They will look at what type of degree you have done, right? And all of those things. And later on, for verification purposes, they will ask for copies of your degree and all of those things. But generally, subjects that you have done for A level, like we won't be specific on that, because we are pretty sure you won't be able to do your undergraduate if you haven't done the right subjects, right? So university entrance would require you to do certain subjects in your A levels, right? So because of that, that's already been validated. Companies don't need to spend time to validate those things, right? They have other work to do.
yes, I hope the person who asked the question, I think he or she might have gotten the answer. Okay, I think since we are running out of time, it's 8:30 p.m. So
Yeah.
I think there are some more questions. So if you want, you can like just skim through the questions and see if there's anything that you want to add.
Okay.
Okay, I think this question should be asked. How
Okay.
the knowledge of frameworks and programming languages are tested at an interview.
Okay. So when you're applying for an internship, this is specifically for an internship. We now, let's say we would look at your past projects, things that you have done during your academic year, right? So if you have done a project and if there are certain technologies around that project, let's say you have used React, you have used let's say frameworks like Angular, or you have used Node.js or different technologies like that, right? So what we will do is we will ask questions based on the projects that you have listed. That's the very first thing. So when you're going for the interview, be ready to answer around those things. Let's say you have done a group project and you are that candidate who has been tagging along with others, right? You just wrote the documentation, then you would be in a very bad position when questions are being asked, right? So generally that's how we start. That's how we generally question. We don't go ahead and, let's say, if the company is using some different technology like Golang or something like that, and your CV doesn't have Golang, we won't go ahead and ask Golang from you, right? We are not that stupid, right? So we will ask questions relevant, and that is there in your CV. So be prepared to defend the work that you have done, right? So try to always defend the work that you have done and make sure that you are aware of those things. So if you have used a framework, you should have the basic knowledge. We won't be checking for deep concepts, but the basic usage of that framework, how things are done, why certain things are done, right? Those things will be questioned. So be ready to answer those type of things. So basically what we are trying to look at is, if you are being given the simplest task using this framework, are you able to do that, right? Are you able to achieve that? What type of knowledge do you have that you have gathered in this particular framework is what we are trying to look at.
Okay. Okay. We have a question from a fourth year undergraduate. I want to become a software engineer. I'm good at coding and solving algorithm. What can I do to find an internship in SC? That means I think software engineering.
Right. So this is okay. So for the undergraduate, I want to become a software engineer, good at coding, right? Solving algorithms. Okay. So if you want to find a internship, right? So if you want to find an internship, basically you can go ahead and check. There are so many listings already there, right? On top jobs, all of these listings, express jobs, all of these platforms have listings asking for interns and for internships. So you can go ahead and go through those, and you can try to apply to the companies. And when you're trying to now, you have said you are good at coding and solving algorithms, right? So when you're going for the interview, so during the interview, there is a there is a very important thing you need to do. You also need to ask questions, right? Generally, we think that only the person interviewing is supposed to ask questions, right? So we are very afraid. We just want to make sure, okay, somehow I will answer only the questions that are asked by them, and I will somehow complete the interview and come out. That is my main goal, right? But that shouldn't be the main goal. You should ask questions. You should read about the company beforehand. You should gather enough information about the company, and you should ask questions. So if you are good in solving algorithms and things like that, you should tell that. You should tell that during the interview. I'm good in these type of things. These are the things I have done. These are the algorithms I have solved, right? I have improved. Let's say there's a sorting algorithm, and I have done these type of improvements into it, right? Or I have tried this GPU sorting algorithm, not like a normal sorting algorithm. I have taken this algorithm and I have done certain changes into this, right? Are there any opportunities like this in your organization? Will I be able to do things like that? Will I be able to use my knowledge for things like that? You can ask that, right? You can ask that, and you can make sure that when you are entering the organization, you are better positioned. So they know that you have a passion towards this, and then they will also try to make sure that you get a chance if there is work similar to this.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Yeah, Nadu.
okay, there's a question we got. How should undergraduates apply for foreign scholarships when planning their master of PhD, sir?
Yeah, foreign scholarships. Then again, you can, the best way for you to apply is to apply through the university, right? So there are multiple opportunities that students have got from universities itself, right? So University of Moratuwa, when I was doing my masters, there was opportunity where we were told that if we want to pursue, we can go ahead and pursue the research that we have done and continue as a PhD, right? So there are things like that, because the academic staff, they are highly connected with other foreign universities, and they know faculty members of those foreign universities, and then you can simply go ahead and apply for those through the university itself, right? That is one way. That is the easiest way that you can do. Then the credibility that you get and all of those are already sorted out. Or else you can go ahead and you can look at the different listings that are there, right? So in all of these major universities, if it is Australian, UK, or any type of university, they will list out their intakes, right? And then you can simply go ahead and apply to those, and then see whether you are being contacted back. So then they will have an interview with you, and they will ask about the projects that you have done, the research projects that you have done, what type of interest area you have, and then they will shortlist you. But going through a faculty member in your existing university is like the easiest way you can get through. So do your final research properly and make sure that you have good ties with your supervisor.
Okay.
That was a clear and a descriptive answer. Thank you so much, sir. And we are really happy about the enthusiasm of our participants. We keep getting questions, and I'm losing track of the questions that I asked them. Okay, but since we are running out of time, I think we will take one last question. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Let's see. One last important question. Let's see. Or I think I can let Mr. Lasita to choose a question, because I think you
Okay.
have. You can
I
answer.
don't mind. You can go ahead and choose a question.
No, the last one I'll let you choose one. So you can add
Okay.
anything you want to say.
Okay, so there is this very specific question, right? Currently, I'm following HND at private university, but I need to do degree at government university. So I plan to do A levels as private candidate and apply to government university. Is it good? Okay, right. So this is going to open up a can of worms, but anyway, let's answer, right? So when it comes to degrees, right? So even I'm from a private, my degree is also from a private institute, right? But I don't mean to say that private or government we can't compare, right? I don't think it's fair to compare any of that, right? So given the right amount of resources, people would pick different ones, right? So for this particular person, what I want to say is, if you're going to do a degree, and if this is the option that you have to do the degree, right, given the amount of resources you have, and the way uh, this is the only option that you have, go ahead and do it, right? So if you're going to do A levels as a private candidate, and if you're going to apply to a government university, do it like that. But most importantly, think about your time and your age, right? This is something I emphasize a lot to people, right? Sometimes we might feel something is very important, right? And we need to somehow get that. That is our goal. But when we look at the overall big picture, sometimes it is not that important. There are other ways of going to the same destination, maybe with less time. Think about all of that. So you're going to do A levels, you're going to then go into a government university, and then you're going to go ahead and pursue your degree, right? What are you trying to achieve? What is the thing that you're trying to achieve out of this? There are people who have gone. You have a HND, you're studying for a HND already. You can go and apply, and you can go and apply to a job with your HND also. If you're willing to sacrifice, right? If you're willing to sacrifice, you can go ahead and apply for a job. You can find maybe the resources that you need, and you can do a degree later on also, right? You can earn the income or the resources that you want, and then you can go ahead and you can do a degree while you're working as well, right? But this requires a lot of commitment as well as discipline, because you will be working as well as you will be studying then, right? So think about it. Think about the options. Think about the destination that you're trying to reach, and what are the different ways of reaching that destination, right? If you're trying to try out multiple things, you're trying one HND, and then I'm not going to do HND, I'm going to stop that, I'm going to do A levels again, and then I'm going to do that, right? So likewise, if you go ahead and toil on that, sometimes your valuable life, the number of years of your age will be lost, right? Think about that. That is not something that you can regain, right? So if I tell through my life, right? I did A levels, right? I couldn't go into the university I wanted, right? But because of that, so certain people told me to do second shy, third shy. The way I studied, I realized, yes, that's going nowhere, right? So if I do second shy or third shy, that is not going to be any useful for me, for someone like me. So because of that, I chose this path, right? But I could have done, and then I could have stayed there and tried that out, and wasted more time. But I was sure that that's not for me. So likewise, think about yourself, and think about what would be the best possible outcome that you can take right now. I hope I answered that question. I was
Yeah.
not very specific, but I tried to answer as much as I could.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Since we are short on time, we'll have to wrap up the Q&A session here. But well, okay, we still keep getting questions. But okay, we'll have to wrap up the Q&A session here.
Session.
Thank you, sir, for all your answers and guidance in shaping up our future in the undergraduate life as well as in the corporate life. And thank you, everyone, for your questions. I see a lot of questions, and they're all valid questions. So they have a lot of doubts. I think they got the opportunity to clear all their doubts. I hope this entire discussion added value to your life and influenced your thinking. So with that, I think we have reached the end of today's event. Once again, thank you, sir, for sharing your insights and for giving us your input. It was such a lovely discussion, and I'm
Yes,
glad
sir.
that we had more than 100 participants throughout the session. I think we can wrap up the Q&A as well as the discussion. And now I invite Rohan Dhananjaya, President of the ITSA, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Hansi.
being here, sir. Okay.
Uh, Good evening, everyone. I am here to present the vote of thanks for today's session of Inside Stories, Chapter 1, Think, Solve, Code, organized by Information Technology Student Association, Faculty of Computer and Technology, University of California. I would like to thank our Chief Speaker, Mr. Lasitha Pettavadu, for visiting and enlightening us with his expertise. Today's webinar was full of knowledge and interesting things. It gave deep insight into our session objective. I am pretty sure that the focused knowledge that Mr. Rasita Pettavadu gave us will definitely help us in our studies and future. I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our heartily thanks to Dr. Gamini Vijayaratna, the Dean of Faculty of Computing and Technology, Dr. Pradeep Samarsekara, the Senior Student Counselor of our faculty, for the support and guidance they have extended to our effort in organizing this session. I also extend my thanks to Dr. Sandali Kasturi Arachi, our academic advisor of PhD degree program, for her cooperation to the organization of this event. My heartiest gratitude also goes to the senior treasurer and advisor of our association, Dr. Anuradha Henge, for her constant support and advice, which made this evening a great success. Thank you, madam, for your immense support and input. I want to thank the organizing committee of this session as well as the executive committee of ITSA, who worked really hard to make this event successful. Also, a huge thanks goes to everyone present here for being attentive to. I hope you found this session valuable. Also, I hope would join us in our future events as well. Until we meet again, I wish you all the very best for all your future efforts. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rahan. Before we wind up today's session, I would like to remind you that there is a link in the chat for feedback form. So we would be grateful if you could take a minute and fill it up. Please feel free to give us your thoughts about today's event and suggestions regarding future events. There's a special announcement for FCT undergraduates of University of California. The ITSA member recruitment round 2 is open now. So make sure apply for the membership and join the journey. The link to the member recruitment form is also in the chat. Remember, the membership are only open for FCT University of California undergraduates. Okay, with that, once again, I would like to thank Mr. Lasitha Pettavadu for giving us his valuable time. Thank you so much, sir. And we hope to see you in our future events as well. Also, we hope to see you all participation in here Inside Stories Chapter 2 as well, which will be coming very soon. Until then, stay safe and stay tuned. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night. Please take a minute to fill in the feedback form, guys. It would really help us.
Yeah, we highly appreciate that.